it's a lot more than what people think, because people don't want to talk about it. I'll have people come by, and I've had kids come by, and they see my sign, the Children's Center for Hope and Healing, and they'll look, hey, I went there. And your heart sinks, because when you see that and you hear that, you know, but then you know what I do? Hey, how are you doing? I'm good. I said, did it help you? I talked to the kid. Did it help you? Yeah, I'm good now. And that makes your heart yuck. I said, because they helped me.
Hi, I'm Katie Sudano.
Hi, I'm Angela Williams.
And I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
And I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
Welcome to the Voice Up podcast.
For those of you that are just tuning in, Voice Up is really about giving voice to the deep, dark issue of child sexual abuse. It's about interviewing survivors, giving them a space to tell their stories, and also to really talk to experts in the field that are boots on the ground working with survivors to rescue, with survivors to help heal, and in prevention. So thank you for tuning in. We ask that you please share this podcast, because this is very important information, and we have to break the silence. So we are Voice Up for the voiceless, right, Katie?
That's right. And we are so excited today. We have a special guest. Her name is Cheryl Miller. Cheryl Miller, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and why you're here and what you're going to talk about today?
I'm Cheryl Miller, and I live in Jackson County, and I'm an advocate for child sexual abuse. I was a victim when I was 12 and didn't tell anybody till I was 47, and got into counseling when I was 48. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Wow, that's amazing. So you went from being sexually abused at 12 and not saying anything till you were 47?
That's correct.
Wow, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that would have been 1976, and at that time, that was not even a subject. So sexual abuse wasn't a subject, so I really didn't understand that. And it wasn't until I went on the Walk to Emmaus, and that's a 72-hour retreat with God, and a friend of mine shared her testimony, how her grandfather sexually abused her. That's when it hit me that I was no longer alone. So then when I told her what happened, I was just fixing to turn 48. She said, I want you to go to this event that the Children's Center for Hope and Healing's put it on. A young lady named Lauren Book out of Florida was speaking. I went to go hear her, and after I heard her story, I said, I got to get help. So I spent a year in counseling there. After I got out, I was like, can I at least start doing Mule Camp? And Mule Camp is, they have like 200 vendors, and I started out slow, just kind of handing out information, really not knowing what I'm doing, but just kind of telling people, hey, this organization gives free counseling. They serve 13 counties in Northeast Georgia. Anybody 3 and up does get free counseling. And that's kind of how I started. Mm-hmm. And then shortly after that, somebody, I could hear on the radio about Voice Today, and a friend of mine said, you need to call that. I did. I found out there was a support group at Johnson Ferry Baptist Church, and I started going there. I freaked out the first time I went, because I went back to my counselor and I said, I was only victimized once, but after hearing these stories, it kind of made me feel like, well, maybe I don't belong, maybe. And she explained, kind of like I heard your podcast, where it doesn't matter whether it's once or 100 times, you're still a victim. And so that's kind of stuck with me. And so doing this and being on the streets, I have 9 fundraisers this year and hoping to pick up more. Telling people I'm a survivor, I'm an advocate, this is what I do. 100% of everything I raise goes to the organization to buy snacks for the kids, because they go straight from school to counseling. People will stop and hug me and say, me too. And I have people that will literally tell me their story and say, I've never told anybody. So it's actually a blessing to be able to have role models like Angela Williams. I love Christine Kane, Joyce Myers, and Lisa Harper, who I've all followed and said, me too, I can do this. And so, getting in a support group has helped me to be able to grow, because my counselor said, you leave it when you leave. When you walk out that door, what you hear, you leave there. And that's kind of stuck with me, that when I'm on the streets doing this, I don't think about what I'm doing. I just know that I'm giving information. I have 10 ways to protect yourself from being a victim of human trafficking. I have 7 ways to hand out to parents from being how to protect your child from being a victim of sexual abuse. And that's what I hand out on the street. And then I just talk about other organizations. I got Angela's card.
Are these handouts available for our viewers? Like,
yes.
Okay, so we could put it in a link?
You could put it in the link. I've got copies, and I've just downloaded it, asked the organization that's 7 Ways to Protect Your Child from Being a Victim of Sexual Abuse. I sent them a message and said, can I use this? They said, absolutely. I told them who I was, what I do, and then the other one I just found online that's 10 Ways to Protect Yourself from Being a Victim of Sex Trafficking, but there was nothing there because it was from South Africa, so I just put the U.S. hotline on there.
Cheryl, do you mind if I ask? And I adore you, Cheryl. You have been one of my greatest cheerleaders, and to do this kind of work and to have people, comment on your post, you're posting things that, most people are uncomfortable reading, seeing. So I just want to personally thank you because you have been truly a great cheerleader for me, and that's encouragement to keep going. But can you tell us your experience? I know you said that you were victimized one time. Can you tell me who your abuser was and what that situation was?
Yeah, it was actually a friend of mine's older brother. He's no longer here. He did take his own life. Mm-hmm. And at 12, of course it was something that was not talked about. So I never told my parents because I knew that if I did, what my dad would do, and then my mom, of course, would have blamed herself. So it just kind of sent me down that dark road of how do you fit in with other people? Trying to do the drugs, trying to do the alcohol, trying to find happiness in everything, working 3 jobs because when you're home, the suicide rate sticks in. It's like, how many times did I think about taking my own life? And probably the only thing that kept me from doing that is I got a horse when I was 14, and I had her for 25 years. That became my out and my best friend for 15 years. So if I was upset, I could go cry on her shoulder, whistle, she would come running. So it was like I was the one that everybody liked to bully, nobody liked. I hated people. You weren't going to talk to me about God because I was going to tell you, I didn't want to hear it because I felt like if there was a God, this wouldn't have happened. And people that went to church were perfect. And so it wasn't until 1997 where I was just at a dead-end road at home. I got a flyer in the mail, and I thought, I've tried everything else, I'll go to church. And so I ended up going to a church. I really liked it. It was a great church, but from that church, I ended up going to Hebron, and that was probably my turning point because they had over 200 singles. I went, they visited me, and I was like, wow, somebody visited me? I had a goodie bag. I was excited. I went back the next week, and the Sunday school teachers, Harry and Judy Robertson, really, I don't know how they ever did it, but they really just poured love into me because I told them, you're not hugging me. Get away from me. I don't want you hugging me, because I had so many walls up and so much anger, but they just kept pouring in, and finally I realized that there is a loving God. I gave my life to Christ, and from that point on, it was like just doors started opening and things started happening, and I've done 3 mission trips. I've been to Honduras because my friend said, will you go to Honduras and share your testimony because the women over there think we walk on streets of gold and nothing bad happens. I said, if God gives me the money, I'll go. Thinking I'm not going to have the money. I can't go. In less than a month, right? I tested God. In less than a month, I had $1,700, and I went to Honduras, and, they actually blessed me. It was great just to go over there and share and tell them who I was, what happened, but that God does love us, and you can take God will take your mess and turn it into a message. And I've been able to help so many people and put information in their hands, like Angela's books. Hey, go online here. They got a podcast, so I've been handing that out all weekend. I just had a 3-day fundraiser doing Brazelton, talking to so many people. I had one lady come up and just hug me, and she wouldn't let me go, and she was a survivor. This must be a thing because you're here. And I gave her the information. I said, here's my business card. Please call me. I'll come do coffee with you.
I just love your passion. You're just...
I said cheerleader, right?
So full of passion. Like, we need more people
Cheryls.
more Cheryls.
Because you are boots on the street.
Yeah.
You are boots on the street. You're in the community. We can't be everywhere.
You're just vibrating, just glowing. I love it. Like, just your passion and seeing how you can prevent and help. And I know we all say this, we just want to help just one person.
Yep.
But the reality is when we help that one person, we want to help just one more person.
That's it.
And it's just so refreshing to see someone so on fire to help prevent and to help save our children.
Yeah,
We
well, when
just think-
COVID hit, the Children's Center for Hope and Healing had a wait list of over 600 kids waiting to get in. And it's like you feel like you're taking one step forward.
Wait,
but then
what's
you're
that
going.
organization?
The Children's Center for Hope and Healing.
And what do they do?
They're downtown Gainesville, and they also have an office in Cumming. Anybody
Okay.
that's 3 years old and up that's a victim of child sexual abuse
Oh,
gets
okay.
free counseling, and they serve 13 counties in Northeast Georgia. So it's like, and I don't know all of them, but it is like Forsyth, Jackson, Barrow.
Well, let's camp out here for a minute. So a child advocacy center really, once a report has been made that a sexual abuse assault crime has been convicted against or perpetrated against a child, then the advocacy center actually steps in. They provide counseling for the child, but they also provide counseling for the family. And then they also work in a very cooperative way to help the child. They do forensic interviews, they collect the evidence, they help with the court system, which oftentimes can be very complicated. So we'll add their link because I really want people to be educated, our viewers especially, to be educated on what child advocacy centers are and what they do. They just came into being around the 90s, the early 90s, and they're all over the country. Unfortunately, there are not enough of them, and their resources are desperately needed, but they're generally underfunded. You know, just like a lot of this work.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, but they do great work. And for a family facing child sexual abuse, oftentimes they don't know what to do or where to go. But I think the most important thing is they advocate for the child and they help with that court case so they can get justice in a court of law. And I want to talk more about the support group because we have, Angela's Voice has a support group every other week. But I really want you to share really what that support, that time with other survivors, how that impacted you, and then how it helped in your healing. If you could share.
Yeah, just listening to everybody else's story makes you realize the journey you're on, you're not alone. It makes you realize that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and hearing other people's story where they were and where they're at today kind of gives you that piece of like, you know what, no matter what you've gone through, there's light at the end of the tunnel and you can be an overcomer. It's my choice, and it's my choice to choose joy. Am I going to be happy, or am I going to allow the abuse that happened to me to just keep me in that downward spiral, or am I going to take my story and my testimony to the street to let people know that there's hope and healing?
Yeah.
Were you afraid the first time you walked through the door?
I was terrified. Because I didn't like people. I didn't know how to talk to people. You put me in a room, I'd be the one in the back. I didn't know how to talk. I didn't know how to have a conversation.
Boy, not anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know how to carry on a conversation. I didn't know how to talk to people because I was in a bubble,
Well, you're saying that you were so frightened and you were so, had all your walls up. What was it that made you make that decision to go? Was it a pool, or what was it that?
Hearing that on the radio, and my friend said you need to call, and so just doing that little research and always hearing that, because I'd heard that commercial forever, and I seen it and I thought, let me just try it. It's kind of like, I guess, God kind of pushing you, and just realizing you're not alone. And then the first time I went, it was scary, but my counselor was the one that said you can do it, And she helped me. Between her and God, they gave me a voice, and I was like, I got to do something. And I started out small, and for the first, I think, 2 years, I was just doing mule camp. And then I started out in Brazelton Antique that Donna owns, has allowed me to start doing that one. And then I've just started growing, and I just started praying, God, give me more. I've been reading The Circle Maker, and you put your prayers in a circle, and I said, I want more fundraisers, and I put different counties. I went from 4 to 9.
Yeah. Wow. You have to be careful sometimes what you wish for.
Yeah.
So who's the author of The Circle Maker? Because you told me about that the other day, and
Mark Batterson.
Okay, we'll have to put that in our link.
Yes, it is a great book. You can't put it down, but I asked for great weather for 3 of my fundraisers. It was great. I've got another one this weekend at Nicholson. I'm praying for great weather. That's Friday and Saturday. It'll be my first time doing that one. So I'll be out there with information, talking to people, just raising awareness on child sexual abuse and sex trafficking, and educating the teenage girls as well. And what I tell people is, if you're at a gas pump, no man should ever ask you to help pump gasoline. And I said, now you got to get a kick out of this. But I said, if they do, tell them you're in their space, and if they don't move, you're going to douse them in gasoline. because that is your best defense. Because as a young woman, I had a lady come and tell me she was targeted. And I thank God she didn't go, because he was in a van. And had she had gone over to help him, I said we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, these people are tricky, and we're raised to want to be helpful and nice and not say no. And I even told my girls, I don't even like them holding the pump without a paper towel. I say grab the paper towel and hold it, because they're dousing them with what's that stuff called that makes you chlorophyll? Fentanyl? I think fentanyl too, but chlorophyll or something.
Yeah.
And so you touch it and it absorbs in your skin, and they could feel a little loopy, and then and say things that they normally would not do.
Well, that's great information to have. I'll have to use that now and start educating people on
There's
that
so
one, because there's
many.
so much that I get offline just learning, like Bikers Against Predators. I learned so much from that young man. Boots is what he goes by. He teaches me so much about the online, how it's in your Snapchat, and Kick, K-I-C-K is another one, and Meetup 24, all the kids. And he's going across the United States catching these people. And he's like me. You work a full-time job, and then you're off on the weekend, and you're up for 48 hours going state to state catching these guys. Clicky clicky is what he likes to say. We like to hear the clicky clicky with the handcuffs.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So many amazing people out there doing amazing work, and we can't get discouraged, because you are, I just am so grateful for the work that you're doing. What would you say are some of your challenges that you faced in this work? Because you're at festivals, really, festivals and...
That is correct. Probably one of the challenges I face is just figuring out when can I get the time off work? Because in order for me to do this, I have to take vacation time. And, I got a great church, and they support what I do. They bought my sign for me. They make all my copies. And eventually we are going to have a healing class and also a raising awareness on this, and it's the Jefferson Church. And once we get moved into our new building, we'll be able to do that. But challenging, sometimes I get a little frustrated when you're on the street and you have people come by, new parents with babies, and you want to give them the information and let them know what's going on, that 90% of abuse is inside the home by somebody you know and trust. It's not the stranger danger. It's your mother, your father, grandfather, uncle, brother, whatever. And they're like, no, we're good. It's not going to happen. But you want people to take it, and you get discouraged when people don't take the information. But then I guess the positive note is when you realize that you're talking to somebody. Like I talked to a lady, she was probably in her mid-70s. And when I tell people what I do and I'm an advocate, and they stick that money in the bucket and look at you and want to give you a hug and say thank you. That they're a survivor.
It's touched their life.
Yeah. And they don't have to say anything, but once you're a survivor, you can pick up on that, and people will just come by and go, grab my hand and go, me too, and keep on walking, because they don't want to stop, but they're thanking you for being there. Yeah. So that's probably, the negative side of it is people not wanting to take the information, thinking that it's still not happened, but then the positive side is knowing that you've just reached somebody.
So for our viewers, for those parents who think it's not going to happen to my child, for the grandparent that thinks it's not going to happen to my grandchild, can you quote some statistics for them?
Oh, Lord, probably they say 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys, but I know the statistics are higher than that. I would say, probably 1 in 6 girls and probably 1 in 4 boys. It's a lot more than what people think, because people don't want to talk about it. I'll have people come by, and I've had kids come by, and they see my sign, the Children's Center for Hope and Healing, and they'll look, hey, I went there. And your heart sinks, because when you see that and you hear that, but then you know what I do? Hey, how are you doing? I'm good. I said, did it help you? I talked to the kid. Did it help you? Yeah, I'm good now. And that makes your heart yuck. I said, because they helped me.
Yeah.
Well, part of the, I think, stigma around child sexual abuse and the taboo keeps us from talking about it. So the more we can talk about it, the more we can hear other people talk about it. And it's like, well, yeah, that happened to me. I mean, people who have cancer usually share, I have cancer, but if you were sexually abused, you keep your mouth shut, because you're not going to be received. The disclosure's not going to be received well. Well, Cheryl, we always like to end our podcast with a voice of inspiration, and I know that you yourself are a living, walking inspiration, but I'd like for you to look into that camera and just talk to our viewers, and because I really think that you can encourage someone else to do something. You're working a full-time job, you're out at festivals, taking your vacation time, taking your own money, raising money for these wonderful organizations. So can you talk to our viewers
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you don't have to live in that dark world. There's light at the end of the tunnel. I was 12. I didn't tell anybody until I was 47. I made a choice to take, God has helped me to take my mess and turn it into a message. So you got this. You got this. You can do it. And every day I get up and I make a choice to choose joy and say, I got this, because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Amen.
And we're here. Yeah,
Oh,
we're here
that's
for
awesome.
you. We're here. We're
Yeah.
definitely here to give you that support and that love.
Well, to our viewers, we just want to thank Cheryl for being here today and sharing her testimony and sharing her story. And you can do something. You can share this podcast. You can subscribe to our channel, and you can help us break the silence. Right, Katie?
Absolutely. We're here for the voiceless, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a voice. So if you want to be on our podcast and you want to share your story, feel free to reach out to us, voiceupforyou.com. Go to the Contact Us page and feel free to fill out the form. We'll be in touch with you.
And we want to thank Mesmerize Media for making this podcast possible. And we want to thank you for tuning in. I'm Angela Williams.
And I'm Katie Sudano. Thank you.
Thank you.